Hello, 4348.
Yes, this is Richard Lovelace from North Carolina.
Hey, Richard.
How are you doing? I need to ask, I've been working on this for a long time. I didn't get
12 hours ago.
Huh?
Didn't I talk to you about 12 hours ago?
No. This is Richard Lovelace, senior computer.
Yeah, maybe it's a different Richard. Okay. I apologize.
This is yours, the one that's he's got over a dozen microchips and wires in spine and brain, and the rest in other parts of the body. He's got brain cancer, broken bones, programmed nanobots, been diagnosed by a doctor with, got more evidence than the law will even allow. But I got chemical poison in my home. You can see it. I don't know what it is. I ain't got the money to get it analyzed. I do have expert analysis, experts in their field. I've got evidence on everything. And I do have the declassified Army documents of the bio effects of that weapon they used. It says it's non-lethal, but, sends voices to the head, burns on the body, shoots laser, electromagnetic pulses. But my whole thing is I will be happy to donate. I'm going to get your email and see if you can't, I might have to donate some to, I'd love for you to come to my home and look at what I have. It would really help you on the overall. It's much worse than people knows about what the CIA's done. I was under this before Homeland Security ever, 20 years before Homeland Security ever came about, using that same machine, that declassified machine I got. They destroyed my entire family in '89. I was trying to expose the biological warfare that they carried out. That goes with the microwave warfare, goes hand in hand. But, I got deaths involved, my wife and some others on this poison and microwaving and things like that. And I hadn't been able to get investigations from anybody, I hadn't talked to my chief in Cleveland County because I live in the county. In Cleveland County, North Carolina. I did talk to my address is Kings Mountain, North Carolina, and they've got a new chief, and she just told me she just got that job, which she did, and I'm suspicious about the last year the chief had died under unusual circumstances, like my wife and some others. He started getting medical problems and stuff like that. I had concerns about that, but I hadn't really went into any detail, but I'd be happy to donate ever how much it'd take if you're interested. Basically, I just want to get a good person out here that'll look at these things, take evidence, and really it don't matter, whether, because my wife died March 29, 2017. She just laid down in the bathtub and curled up, said fetal position, and stopped breathing, and they covered it up, even though I had all that evidence. Told the medical examiner on the phone, she's got stuff in her body that caused her death. She's been microwaved, and they hid her body from it. Things like that. That's how important this monitoring is, sending this data to these computers, It's just that important. That they can, let deaths be involved like that, and then literally cover it up. But I don't know whether you'll be able to help me or not.
Yes, I'm trying to get people I know that do have a little bit of money. They're not wealthy, but they're okay. I'm trying to get them to do, $200,000, $500,000 donations to put in the kitty that I'm opening up a trust for, and that can help pay for air travel or things, and I just have to pick somebody every few weeks and, fly to where they're at and Uber in or rent a car or do something to visit people that don't have funds, but I haven't been successful to convince them to do this at this point. They said, we believe in you. You're our friends, and we've known you for years on end. But, we kind of want people to pay their own expenses. We got to pay ours, Then I said,
Right.
look, people that's hurting very bad that I could help a lot, and you got a lot of resources, and you're going to poop this off at the country club this weekend, do something good, bigger than yourself sometime. And so I just don't know. But I'm trying. But I just don't have no funds myself. I'm on a low fixed income that I can't do. And people say, well, don't you get a retirement check? Well, when I retired as chief of police, some cities have their own in-house, and I had a couple of those, but years ago I had to cash those smaller ones out, and the only one that was significant was $30,000, and you got to do a 10% decrease for penalty because I wasn't old enough, and 10% for federal taxes. So I think I went up to $23,000 or $24,000. There were some administrative fees, so $23,000, and my car was about to go kaput, so I put a lot of it down on the truck and paid a few of my family's bills. So no, there ain't no retirement. I don't, I guess everybody thinks you're retired, you got a retirement. Not necessarily. So, I can eat, I feed my family, we got a roof over our head, and when I say this, let me be real clear so people don't run around in tote tails. My family was targeted, but not the way you all are targeted. We had some haters on my YouTube social media account that were, for lack of a better word, under the spell of a bad attorney who acts like Charles Manson in lots of ways. So they would come by filming and videotaping my house, and they were driving 3 to 5 hours away to come there and harass us or follow us around in the car. Of course, I know all the cops around here. They knew what's going on. I just pull up to the police department, and they would tear out, So, that went on for several weeks, so we actually moved out of our home because we was targeted, but by private individuals working as a group because they didn't like my message and they didn't like what I was doing, and they was trying to shut me down because this guy's, he's an attorney, but he's actually been classified as not a sociopath, but a psychopath, a narcissistic psychopath, which is in the 1%ers that are the most dangerous of the dangerous. And I've already filed all my criminal complaints with the district attorney's office and filed with the California bar because that's where he is. So I understand targeting. Now, y'all's is a total different type, but it still leaves a big question mark in your mind about who's following behind me. I made 2 left turns, 2 right turns, and they're still with me. What's the chances of that happening? Well, it could, but it's just not normal. They just happen to be going the same way. But then if you stop and they stop, well, now there's a problem. If they go on past you, then you see who they are. You get their license tag or videotape them, if you want it or need it for later. So,
well, I always say that I try to warn a lot of other people in my county, or 2
sure.
counties actually, that there's various targeting. Some of them severe, and some of them you don't even know it's being done to you. It's monitored. They don't hurt you at all, but you are being monitored, and things happening to you that's not normal. Right. Properties, whatever. But I've watched many of them die in the last 8 years being done like that, and they didn't even know they'd been targeted. I always tell people, the ones that don't know, not aware of the dumb down effect and what's being done to them, and it actually causes cancers and heart attacks, vascular problems, and things like that after a while too. And that's the reason it's great that you brought up the alternative medicine. I can't explain the importance of even people that don't know they're being targeted, which they blow you off anyway, but they really need to take some alternative medicine to keep their health good. Because after you target it for a while, it could take a toll on your health all the way around, and I do know that for a fact. So a lot of people being monitored and they don't know it, and that's an example I gave earlier on my police chief in my small town. He started getting sick. Of course, he wasn't but 60. He started getting sick a couple of years earlier, and then all of a sudden, it's a strange thing, he just died in his sleep and stuff like that. And if the man was being targeted and not knowing it, and a lot of times they do target police also, monitor them, not target, monitor them for security purposes and things like that. After a few years, depends on the age, it will cause things like that. And that's the reason hospitals, they don't even want to know about that, because they can't deal with it. They can deal with vascular disease and certain things that causes, but they don't look at the why, the reasoning for it. But yeah, I understand what you're saying about, about that. I was just thinking. I just wrote now my sheriff's, my expert reports in toxicology, microbiology. I already gave them to the sheriff of Mike County and Gaston County, trying to get help. And 3 weeks before my wife, I come up my home, she couldn't breathe well and her heart was racing. So people need to know about the heart racing and your bed spinning, your equilibrium, your room might spin, your heart racing, and your breathing. And I spent the day with her and my grandson, and I went back and talked to the sheriff. He's a good guy, his hands is tied. Because when I asked him, to call the FBI in, this terrorist act's being carried on my family, and the only thing he came back with said they trying to make microwaves safer. Now, when he said that, I don't know who they are, but it told me his hands was tied, But anyway, when I asked him, because my wife being hit so bad, and I spent the day with her and my great grandson, and I said, anything happened to my wife? He said, you're going to get her tested. And I said, yes, sir. And see, that's bad, because I got 3 congressman documents, and I already talked to both sheriffs before that, and many authorities and stuff. And then I went to all of them after that, letting them know what happened to my wife. I don't know how they feel about that, but I know what, and the chemical pulled in my home. I called them out here. I showed it to them under UV light all over everything in my kitchen and master bath. I wanted the sergeant out here, but he wouldn't come. He sent an officer. But anyway, that's months ago. I hadn't heard anything. So they're not going to, and it's still going on with me. I just had to order another ground shield, updated ground shield, live in a Faraday cage, and spend a couple $100 a month on medication. Supplements and stuff like that just to survive. So, and all this damage in my body. I have got an appointment with Hopper, because I do have brain damage. I have film of it and everything, and it's in December, but maybe I'll get some help down there, at least get my medical help and get these things out of my body where I can kind of, function better. But yeah, if you don't mind, give me email. I wouldn't mind donating, just to get the check on some issues.
Yes, it's www.TI Health, H-E-L-T.
Did you say
now.
T? Did you say T?
Yeah, it's I've abbreviated it for Targeted Individuals Help Now. So it's TIHelpNow.com.
TIL now.
No, TI Help, HELP.
Oh, okay.
Now. TI Help Now. In other words, it's current. It's now. TIHelpNow.com.
Okay, TIF now. Okay, I appreciate you helping everybody and giving them good advice, and hopefully you can, But yeah, I'll donate just to to your email and stuff, and I won't go into nothing, and you could maybe we could chat 30 minutes or an hour or something like that on the phone.
Sure.
Well, I appreciate your help. You have a good one.
Sir, absolutely. Well, I'm trying to find out how to get to my next Q&A person. I've got all these people on there and something on my screen. I'm clicking the Q&A. Okay, maybe I found it. Hello? Hello?
Hello? Hello?
Yes, this is me.
Hi.
Talking to you.
Hi. I was the one
Hey.
that got cut off.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'm very sorry.
All these things happen. It happens, it's okay. Hey, Chief Jones, are you
Yes.
familiar with direct energy weapons at all?
I have become, this is my take on it, okay? I don't expect you to take this take, but I have become a expert on this in less than 6 months by immersion. I probably would have taken 5 or more years under normal circumstances, but I've spent too many hours reading article after article after article and making phone calls to people I know all across the country and going to visit. Got one friend that was 112 years old, and he knew Nikola Tesla, and he had told me things in the past about him, which really kind of connected a lot of dots that didn't make sense then because he said it in a certain way. And I know another man that's an engineer that knew him through his job and then become personal friends and things he told me. So I'm aware of a lot of the technology from the 1920s and 30s and the Philadelphia experiment and all sorts of things that nobody's ever heard of. So I would say the answer is yes, but keep in mind I could learn just as much in the next 5 or 6 months as I already know, or more, and I'm never going to quit learning.
Oh, okay. Well, that's reassuring. I'm glad to hear that you've, been immersed in some of the technology, which is what many of us have had to do. And, this is tantamount to having poisoned water. When you've got poisoned water, you can take a sample and you can say, hey, our water's poisoned. Well, in this situation, it is the electromagnetic spectrum that's been weaponized. And it's not like we can just, take a sample of air, which it does travel through the air. But it is EMF, and it is on such a low frequency, and in some cases it's on a higher frequency, like the HARP, and there's different kinds of electromagnetic spectrum weaponization. And in my case,
yes, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
I was just going to jump in real quick and tell you, have you heard about spontaneous human combustion?
I sure have.
Okay. Now, I'm not asserting this. I'm throwing it out as a possibility because somebody that I know that knows things, he also told me that he wasn't making any accusation, but he had been pondering for quite some time, for many years, that since the body is an electronic component, works off of electronic impulses, if you will, and said they're human impulses, but they can be read and they can be manipulated through electronics. And he says, now, first of all, he's, because I talked to him about the TIs, and he said, I believe they're real. He said, I don't think there's as many as you think, and I think some people are susceptible to suggestion, but he said, I believe that there are quite a few that are. I said, I believe that. Not everybody that thinks they are might not be, but maybe people that don't even know they are. So it's a trade-off. But anyway, he said, I believe that a certain energy weapon focused with nano precision on a person, if their chemical balance is, identical or almost identical, and they got hit by this, it could cause a human combustion from no, quote, known source, because they basically are heating up the interior of the body, and it's like putting a match to gasoline and they light up. And so he's supposed to be doing more research into instantaneous human combustion. He's supposed to be talking to people, and I'm talking to other people trying to find out. But that's a very interesting thing to me.
Yeah,
Not that nobody's tortured, but, if I can find out if that's true, one, is it true? Can I gather evidence that that's true? At least it's happened one or more times and I can prove it. Then I can find out how to stop it. And I did an exhaustive research for the last 36 hours, and I got a good friend of mine that's a TI in California, and she has sent me numerous links for numerous categories that a TI would love to see or have, and probably a lot of them already do have. But she's just barraged me, and God bless her, she's just really dug deep to help. And she's a real, real sweetheart, and I wouldn't mind her being my mother. She's a fantastic lady. And all this stuff she's sent, I've tried to look through it as time permitted. I've actually gone on to Amazon and other search engines, and I went into private mode and searched other websites throughout the world, and I found all type of shielding devices, redirection devices, instruments that can measure signals, how strong are they, how far are they away, and some prices were in the $300 to $500 range, some things was $2,000 to $10,000. But what I was trying to do is to get links. Now, whether anybody buys it or not, it's not the question. It's that they at least need to know it exists and what the price is and what it says it'll do. But I'm never going to endorse any of these people or any of these things unless I know for certain. I'm just putting it out there for these are grains of salt, worth you looking at, and if you buy it at your own risk. I don't endorse any of these people. It's just be a resource.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. I don't know any TIs who have who know of the spontaneous combustion right at this stage, but I have been attacked with severe heat on my body and other issues, but I don't want to get too much into bio effects. I just wanted to check to see if you actually had some knowledge of the direct energy weapons and how they work, and the energy that, it is on the low end of the spectrum.
Yes,
and I do, honestly, I just wanted to share with you, it is the FCC, that three-letter acronym agency. It is within, I believe they have abdicated their responsibility by ignoring what has happened to this spectrum, and they have allowed the military-industrial complex to create these weapons, which are now being sold. And that's how we have all these. You did mention psychopaths, Chief Jones. And I do want to mention that psychopaths own these weapons, and only a psychopath would want to torture a 70-year-old woman in her bedroom. It is insane what they are doing to us women, but there are men who are being tortured in every single way, and I've met them, and they are young men. And we have a huge problem.
Let me tell you something, and, things, your imagination can go anywhere you want it to. And some people that are crazy, their imaginations go places your imagination wouldn't go. And if there's a way for them to fabricate or make their fantasy or imaginary things come true, I know a man. Let me be careful how I say this. He's a police officer in Dallas, okay? That's all I'm going to say because it doesn't identify him. They got 2,500 or 3,000 officers now, okay? So I'll just say this is a man. That's a police officer in Dallas. He's straight. He's a heterosexual. He has been married for many years. He has children. He knows of an attorney that is a homosexual. And this attorney was making a lot of advances on him. And he said to this attorney, hey, look, I don't criticize you and your sex life. I don't speak against it. He said, I've got my own deeply held religious beliefs. I put on my police hat. I'm in the middle of the road. If you're right, you're right. If you're wrong, you're wrong. Okay, I don't have friends and enemies. I just try and get along with everybody and do my job. And so he kept telling him that he needed to be his special friend. He told him, he said, I've got access and friends with special weapons and tactics, which sounds like SWAT, to him. So he doesn't pay much attention to him. Well, later on, he's out on patrol and he makes a traffic stop or something, and he has debilitating pain. Well, of course, he's thinking this seems like symptoms of a heart attack, but it's not a heart attack. He says, but I feel weak and flushed and sluggish to the point he had to tell the people, I was stopping you for speed or running a stop sign, whatever it was, and said, I just want you to be aware of it because he didn't want them to be alarmed. And said, so it looks like everything's okay, just y'all be careful. And he went back to his car, and he went home sick. And different things happened. Not to his family, just him. And that crazy attorney come back to him and said, you ready to be my friend now, my special friend? I'll take good care of you, boy. And so he said, no. He says, hey, he said, didn't you recently have some kind of traffic stop and have a lot of health issues? He said, if you're my special friend, that wouldn't happen to you. He said, you know what? He said, somehow, some way, you know something or have some special ability that I can't prove at this point. But you keep messing with me, I'm a cop, and I will track it down. And he actually told him, he said, and if you're behind it, you will disappear. I will make you disappear, and you will die a horrible death. Don't screw with me. So he was one of the people that I had been talking to this about that I knew. And so he told me of this thing that happened to him in recent times. So he said when he had that and told him how it was going to be and what all he would do, then everything stopped. He said, I didn't know about all these things. But when you brought it up, he said, I was hesitant to say anything to you. Because I was personally involved, but I got to thinking about it, hey, you're the real deal, and I'm going to tell you my situation. And he said, so that means an individual man has some electronic gear that he can focus on somebody and hurt them. And he said, you don't know where they're standing. They might be a mile away with a super scope, and they're sending it your direction. He said, there's no way to prove it unless you're doing something at that time. He said, if I get hit again, he said, oh, I'll be on full alert, and I'll pull out all the stops. You know, other targeted individuals have told me various things, and I have never told a single one, that sounds nuts. I have said a few times after talking to over 100 PIs on the phone for 30 minutes to 2 hours, I have said, this is really hard for me to fathom. Not meaning it's not true and correct. It's just hard for me to intake it, digest it, kind of take it apart, look at it, and then I think it's still going to be really wild and strange to me, but the more I become familiar with it, the more research I do, the more it'll become clear to me. And I find that that's nearly always true. Even if I can't find the evidence, there's at least enough evidence to say that it's a truthful claim, even without some certain evidence. It's not enough to go into court, but at some point, just to have me be who I am and tell them, hey, I believe you. And I do. Now, if somebody tells me something that I can't believe, I'm honest, and I say, at this point, I'm not a believer. I'm not accusing you of telling a lie, but I can't believe it at this point based on my knowledge and my research and my expectation. But I will work with you to help you gain it, you know, if you can pay basic expenses, you know, nothing fancy, just whatever we got to do. And so that's where I'm at.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that you're open, because it is very difficult to believe these claims. Even myself, when while it was happening to me, I didn't believe it my own self. It took a lot for me to actually evaluate and say I am being attacked by an electronic weapon. So for you to not be attacked and to believe us is very admirable, and I appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am. I'm going to try.
I would like to propose one thing, Chief Jones. Well, maybe an option of two things. I could pay your way to come to California and pay your hotel, pay for your airline ticket, pay your expenses to get here and meet with a group of SCIs and subsequently meet the chief of police in Sacramento. Or I could bring myself and one other TI, a person that I believe is of the highest character and 100% fully sane. And that, by the way, those are the only ones I affiliate with. I don't hang out with people who are crazy. You know, these are people who are credible. We're credible. But I do want you to know that we could come to you. Chief Jones, we could come to you, and I could bring you some documentation from Dr. Michael Hoffer. He saw the Cuban American diplomat. I saw Dr. Hoffer, and he examined me. And I can tell you about that visit. And I'm prepared to swear in a court of law. But I do have some remarkable evidence that I think a police officer would enjoy reviewing. I'm not showing it to one here because I don't trust anybody. But because of your stature and your personality and your conviction in God, I would fly out with another person, if you know, and show you what I have.
Yes.
And we could, you know, I think it would be an education for you.
Sure. Whether I come there, you come here would be at your discretion, you know. In other words, hypothetically, say you sent me an email and you told me who you was and to contact you in reference to traveling there, you know, then that's not, to me, that's not a consultation, that's an offer. and
yes.
I would have to call you and, find out, when it's good to come there, and, do I need to be there for 1 day, 5 days, so I know that either I've got to make some extended arrangements for my wife and son, which I can do and I have done, or, how long they'll be okay without me, without having to have somebody with them, and I make all the arrangements, and then I would come. So I'm not opposed to that at all.
Well, I would make the arrangements, but I think because of your position in the judicial system and law enforcement, that it would help if you contacted the Sacramento Chief of Police and, made an appointment, and then I will base your flight on that date. I will make sure you get in and you have time to meet with me and the other targeted individuals, and then we could decide if we all should go with you to meet the chief and discuss our dilemma. But I also believe that it might help if I came out to see you, and just so you could see who I am and get an idea that you're not wasting your time out here in California. Because I probably have more time on my hands than you do.
That's 100% up to you, but I'm willing to meet any TI, and I'm willing to go to any TI so long as they can, pay their way or pay my way to do it. So I'm just not coming in the red. I'm already trying to help. I just don't want no more out-of-pocket expenses than I've already experienced. Then I'm good with that.
Okay, and the reason I just wanted to convey to you, the reason that I would like to do this is that we could somehow impale the veil that is being covered, because we're not getting through. We just can't penetrate the police to convince them and show them what's happening to us. And in my heart of hearts, I know that they have some of the police do have this weapon, and it has been used on us when we gathered outside the state capitol in Sacramento. It is unfortunate, and I do want to apologize on behalf of the police, because it's very embarrassing to tell a retired police chief that the new breed that has come out are doing this to their citizens.
I believe you. I got like 7 more people behind you, and we've been on 2.5 hours, so I'm going to try and get through them, because it's 10:30 at night my time, and I've already got my son taken care of, but I have to spend a little time with my wife, so I'm going to try and move on, and don't be disrespectful. I just have to move on.
Okay, well, thank you, and I will contact you through your website.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Hello?
Hi, Chief. It's Barb.
Hey, Miss Barb. How are you?
I'm good. I don't know if somebody else has a more I'm just going to throw out my question, and you can decide whether to move on, because you have other calls coming in, Wednesdays.
Sure.
I keep hearing stories on the calls of police coming to the TI's door and taking them to a mental institution. So I'm wondering, can you speak on this issue, and should they open the door? Should they not? How can they tell a real police badge from maybe a fake one? So I'm just wondering if you can kind of speak on that.
Okay.
And if you want to wait to another call, that's fine too.
No, I want to answer this. I don't care if you're on a traffic stop with a cop or somebody comes to your door. If you have any doubt, any suspicion as to their legitimacy, it is 100% perfectly normal, reasonable. When there's no law against you, call a 911 and say, I am whoever you are, and I'm at this place, and somebody's at my door, or I'm pulled over and I'm not sure this is a legitimate police officer. I need help. Then if it is a legitimate officer, they may try and say, does his car say anything on it? No, it looks like it might be an unmarked car, it might be a fake car, I don't know. And they're in civilian clothes, I don't know. Or, they're in some uniform, but I can't tell where they're allegedly from. And they'll say, stay in your car, and we'll notify, another uniformed officer to come there that we'll be in contact with. That has actually happened. I had an assistant chief of police who had been working on some drug task force stuff. He had been in the military. He had on his combat boots. He had on his fatigue pants, and he had on a green military shirt. And he had on his duty belt and his badge around his chain around his neck. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. Somebody is going like 95 or 100 miles an hour in a 55 zone. And so where he would normally never do this, he actually turned around and pulled them over. And they called me on the radio, Quincy in Midway 1, go ahead. Can you advise if you have an officer on duty in fatigues with a green shirt with combat boots on? Yes, I do. Can you please describe him? It's a black male. He's about 58 years old, bald head, about 280 pounds in all muscle. So they had the lady describe him. They said, yes, we talked to the chief of police, and yes, he's the assistant chief of police, and he's been working undercover doing operations, and that's who stopped him. And it was a middle-aged lady, because she called 911. So, I've actually had a call like that. I know other deputies sometimes have had calls on them. Investigators have had calls. So being on a traffic stop at your home, that's no problem. If you're in fear, you have, and there's lots of fake cops that have stopped numerous women, they've men too, but mainly women, and they've raped them. They tell them they're under arrest for something, which is fictitious. Then they take them back to their alleged police car, and they drive them out in the middle of nowhere.
Oh, geez.
So people stopping think, hey, that cop's arresting somebody, so it doesn't arouse no suspicion. They get them in the car, and they go off in the middle of nowhere and rape them and kill them. And I know this will sound strange, but they actually have these snuff films, is what they call them, where they actually record it, but it doesn't show their face, or it's blurred out, but it actually shows them raping a victim, and then they kill them. And they have it on recording because some people have some strange fetish of seeing somebody be killed at the end of a rape. Now, keep in mind that I've been told it's period, but I don't know. But the psychologists tell us that people that are arsonists, that start fires, whether they're paid to start a fire or they just start one, either way it's irrelevant, that sexually arouses them. So they usually, there are women that do it, but it's predominantly nearly always men, and it's usually always white men between 25 and 45. And many of them join volunteer fire departments so they can be in and around this. And they've actually noted volunteer fire chiefs that have talked about they have had a fireman that appeared to have ejaculated in his pants. And it bled through, and he was making noises like he was fixing to have a climax or something. And I know that's hard to talk about, but we've actually uncovered many firemen over the years that have done that.
Jeez.
Now, that doesn't mean it's a big percentage. It's actually a small percentage, 3% or less, I would imagine. But some of them actually go out and start a fire, and then they respond to the fire. So they get to create it, then they get to rush with lights and sirens on to the call, and so it creates numerous it fulfills their fantasies, and it's like a power trip. Like rape is a power trip.
Yep.
It's not necessarily sexual, it's a power trip, and the power trip is what sets off sets off the sexual issues.
Yep, it's true. Okay, so if they come to the door and you've done that, let's just give the worst scenario, and the police say, yes, they're ours, and they're, for some reason, going to try and take you to a mental institution. What are your rights? Can they do that?
Well, if you're in your own home, this is my opinion. If you're in your own home and you call 911 and they said they're legitimate policemen, well, then please tell them I'm on the phone with you and to simmer down. And after I talk to you, we'll decide what I'm going to do or not do. So you're in your house, your doors are locked, and you tell them, ask the policeman what they want. Well, they want to talk to you. Well, they're going to have to talk through the door because I'm not going to open my door. Even though they're legitimate cops, they're on my property at my door. And I have no idea why they're here, so I'm scared. I've seen cops do bad things to people. What do they want? You know, and they're usually going to tell me, so they just want to talk to you. Well, tell them that we'll make an appointment to come in and see them. Just leave their card, and I'll make an appointment to get up with them with my attorney, or I'll have my attorney call them.
Well, that's a good idea.
You know, so
that they back out then.
Now here's what another thing is. They'll say you're refusing to talk to us. They use the word refuse or refused, very harsh tones, and refuse because it's almost like a double negative word. So you're refusing to cooperate. They use the word refused and cooperate or cooperating with us. Okay? That causes a psychological impact on the man or woman. Well, I'm not refusing. Yes, you are. Well, police used to be trained that way, but over time they were trained to use neutral words like, so you're going to decline my request. That's a neutral word. You're going to decline. But most old cops still use the other things, and new cops learning from old cops, so they still say, so you're going to refuse to cooperate. So that psychologically says you're a bad man and you're a lawbreaker and you're doing it right in front of me. That's what he psychologically says. So I've actually been around police. In fact, I was at a very, very serious accident scene on LBJ Freeway with a friend of mine that the lady cut across 4 lanes in front of us, almost wrecked us out somewhere late at night, 11, 12 o'clock, whatever it was, and we whipped over to be first responders and help whoever was in the car, even though they almost wiped us out. The lady, no doubt in my mind, she was intoxicated to the gills by some substance. Now, I know she was in an accident. It was a hard impact, and it put the car on its side, and it tore up all the rails, and halfway surprised that she could walk or talk. But people that are heavily intoxicated usually live because they're more limber,
right,
and their blood's flowing pretty freely. Anyway, I knew what was going on. I didn't ask her no questions, but when she got up within 2 to 3 foot of me, the alcohol of odor could have nearly knocked me down. It was so strong. And so, but I had already, on the way back, I had already called 911 for an ambulance and a fire truck because I thought that the situation might become explosive, that the car might actually explode, and it's right barely off the interstate, and there's numerous traffic. So just for everybody else's safety, I called the ambulance. I didn't call the police. I called the ambulance and fire truck. And, you know, now 99% in Dallas County, you're going to get 1 or 2 or 3 cops, highway patrol, city, county, whatever. And so the ambulance showed up, the fire truck showed up, and they got there, and the woman's telling me, just take me away from here. Just do this, just that. Well, man, you had a serious accident, and you're saying you're okay, and you're trying to leave the scene of an accident with injury or damage, And to fix this rail is probably going to be a couple $1,000 or more. You know, well, help me tow out my car. No, ma'am. At this time, at minimum, it's a civil scene, and you've created at least a few $1,000s worth of damage. You can't leave this scene except for medical care. Well, take me to the hospital then. No, the ambulance will be here. I can hear them in the distance. They'll be here before you can even get in our car, and we actually don't really have a back seat. So if you want to go with the ambulance, well, while they're treating her and taking care of her, then 4 different police from the sheriff's office show up. And, you know, they are questioning her. Now, I did tell her, I said, I'm not an attorney, but I see some police pulling up. You can talk to them or not talk to them. You know that? She said, why is the cops coming up? I said, ambulance come, fire truck come, they're probably going to be out here to direct traffic or whatever. I don't know. I said, I know and I have no doubt you're completely intoxicated, and you should have never been behind the wheel, and you tore up this railing. Now, as just an average, everyday person, you can talk to the police or not talk to the police, but anything you say or do, they're going to use that against you. So once you know that, then you're on your own. And I got my body cam on, and I'm recording everything. And so the police, first of all, they try and rush me and my friend away, unless we're eyewitnesses. Then they decide we are eyewitnesses, but we're actually videotaping, so they want us to go away. And I says, well, I'm going to go ahead and stay here. And then so I eventually had to pull out I'm a member of press card on them. So it's not to escalate it, say, you know, I'm a member of the press, and I'm trying to be a public good and capture my story. What's your name? So then they didn't want to talk to us. They kept telling us we could go. Then they started asking us more specific questions, trying to make us feel uneasy. So we told you everything we can, and we're just videotaping the encounter, and we'll edit it for TV or whatever we need to later on. And they kept trying to get us to go along. Well, I didn't really want to give them all my information, because if it went to trial, they would try and subpoena me. And they would probably, you know, they got more money than they got sense. They would probably fly me across country, because it'd be a felony charge, and they would subpoena me as a witness, and they'd probably fly me over there and stuff. Well, I didn't want to get wrapped up in all that, you know. I mean, they wouldn't need me. They didn't need me. My other friend was very old, and he has a lot of health issues. He didn't want to be. He said, let's just stay here. And I said, we got about, from my experience, we got about 2, maybe 5 minutes at max. We keep staying, they're going to start asking for our IDs, which they can't get under Texas law because we're not lawfully arrested. But they're going to start asking. And things that start going to go south, they're going to get all our information one way or another. If we leave now, then we're just ghosts. He said, I think you're right. And then when we was starting to leave, they say, you guys got IDs? Yep, somewhere. You guys have a good night. We just kept walking. They said, but do y'all got IDs? Yeah, somewhere. So we just kept walking, and they started walking towards us, but we was already like 50 or 60 foot ahead of them, said, you guys have a good night. And he was probably still 30 foot away by the time we got in the car, and I said, crank up the car and leave. He never said stop. He never said you're required to ID, which you're not. He never said we're holding you as a witness, nothing. So we left. I said, see how close that was? So I said, you got to look at your state law and see if it's a stop and ID state. But even then, it's still articulable, reasonable suspicion. They still have to tell you up front, I'm getting, even if it's a stop and ID, I'm getting your ID upon the demand of a peace officer. Well, that's great. Well, what is your articulable, reasonable suspicion? What crime have I committed, am I committing, or are you suspicious I'm about to commit? You have to tell me something. You can't think it up or make something up in an hour down the road. You have to tell me up front, and once you tell me up front, I don't necessarily have to agree, but it's a legitimate suspicion, and it's articulable and reasonable, and the word being reasonable. Then I'm going to give you my ID if we're in a stop and ID state, and you provide that to me. If you don't, then I'm not going to do it, and then you're probably going to arrest me, but in the end I'm going to win, and I'm going to sue you for unlawful arrest and false imprisonment. And you may or may not have a job when it's over. And they're going to probably settle with me a few months to a year down the road. I'm going to be a pretty well-off guy. Where do you want to go with this? And they're not used to people talking back to them like that, but I do it all the time. And a lot of people I associate with do it all the time. Some of them have gone to jail 3 or 4 times. Some of them pretty wealthy right now. Some of them's working on getting wealthy just by exercising their mere rights. You know?
So I'm thinking I like your first example. It's probably the least combative, rather than all those other things that you can do, just to say, hey, I'm willing to talk to you. Let's make an appointment. I'll call my lawyer, and then I'll call you.
Right. But
they're going, it's not combative, and you're going to weed them out, probably. They're never going to call.
Yeah, well, here's the deal. They're going to keep standing at the door, and they're going to keep knocking on and say, we need to talk to you now. They're going to try and apply pressure.
Okay.
And, you know, at that point, that's when I say, look, guys, you're irritating me, you're aggravating me, you're harassing me, you're on videotape, whether it's true or not. I'm going to say you're on videotape, you're being monitored, my neighbors and friends are watching you. I'm going to bed. Have a good night. And then if you don't answer, say, I told them I was going to bed. So even if they're crazy enough to kick in your door and come in after you, you say, hey, I told you I was going to bed. You kicked in my door. Where's your warrant? So they have no more authority to kick in your door without a warrant than John Doe walking down the street says, hey, I want to kick that guy's door in. That's breaking and entering.
Yeah, that's good advice. Thank you.
And with a firearm, that's home invasion. They'll say, well, we went to go in there for a lawful purpose. No, that's fruits. That's poisonous fruit of the tree. You cannot go back to the root. You're out on a limb. You got poisonous fruit. It's no good. It can't be used in court. I'm not a lawyer. I just know. You know, I tell people all the time, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a judge. I just have 40 years of experience, and I'm talking about my experience and things I've been taught.
I like it.
So, yeah. Well, let me get to the next person. Yes. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.